Welcome to Stories Worth Hearing. I'm your host, John Quick. Today I'm joined by entrepreneur, investor, and tequila business founder Rob Fitzpatrick, along with his son, for a conversation about business, family, risk, and what it takes to build something that lasts. We talk about how Rob got his start, the first business he created, what led him into the tequila world, how his television projects came together, and the lessons he has learned through the years of building across different industries. We also hear directly from his son, who shares why he believes his father has been so successful and why he wants to be a part of the family business and how important family is to everything they build together. This conversation is about entrepreneurship, legacy, and why family remains at the center of all they do. Well, Rob, welcome to the show. I'm super excited you're on. This will be fun to chat about you, your tequila brand, and this really cool TV show you guys got going on.
Jonathan, great to be here, and thank you for your time today.
Well, you're kind of on a whirlwind. I've heard you've been on different radio shows, and now you're probably doing the podcast circuit. So I'm excited to get you on. But take me back before we talk about the tequila brand and the TV show that you have. Take me back to the day that you first got the entrepreneur bug, because it isn't for everybody, and you seem to be doing pretty well at it. So tell me about how the heck did you get involved in this crazy thing we called being an entrepreneur?
Yeah, exactly. Great question. So my inspiration for me becoming an entrepreneur was my father, God rest his soul. He turned 50 years old, and I saw how hard he kind of grinded, Monday to Friday. He would come home, have his evening meal, and then literally, start the same process and get 2 days off a week. And sometimes because he wanted to provide for the family so much so that he would go even work at weekends, for double time or whatever stuff. So I was at 18 at the time. He just turned 50. And it was like, I've got to get my parents out of this situation, and I cannot live like this. So up to that point, I did what a lot of people did, Jonathan. They followed their father into the same line of work. For 2 years, I was an upholsterer, making office furniture and stuff like that. And then I quit. And then, the entrepreneur type scenario came on. We didn't have things like the internet in them days and things that simplify the process of making money. So literally just hustled, got into real estate very, very quickly, started my own marketing company, which was creating, it's a bit like a discount scenario now that people have in cash back. But then I wouldn't say it was revolutionary, but we created what is called a closed user group, and we were just using the bargaining power of many people to literally go to brands and say, look, we have 10,000 people or 15,000 people or 25 paying a subscription model, and we want to buy your products and services, but we need you to kind of give us a good price point. Otherwise, Jonathan, we'll go to your competitor. So we used the reverse auctions psychology, if you will. We all know what an auction is. You, Dion, and I, we're in a room and we're outbidding each other. And what we're actually doing is increasing the price of that thing that we're all trying to buy. And only two people benefit from that transaction. One is obviously the person who's selling that goods, and secondly, the auction house. Whereas we use a different dynamic. We're going and pushing the price down and bidding other companies to get our consumer bits. It's a bit like certain demographics. It might be the Chinese, it might be the Jewish people. They keep it within the family. They buy their products and services and goods all from that closed group, if you will. So that's how we got in. Being an entrepreneur, real estate, started very young, and, made my first million by the time I was 24. And then ultimately did what every young, silly kid does. They go out and they buy the nice cars and they buy I was fortunate enough to make enough money. I could go out and buy a jet, and I bought a yacht. And I'm embarrassed to say this, Jonathan, I retired at 24, and I moved to a beautiful place called Mallorca, which is in the Balearics, which is one of the Spanish islands. I had a beautiful place on the Paseo Maritimo over across from the yacht club, and my oldest son, Dion's brother, at that time, I sold him on the fact, I'm going to put you into a beautiful private school called Belver. You're going to learn so much. You're not going to have this situation where there's 30, 40 kids in the room. You're going to learn a lot of languages, have a great time. And, every afternoon when you come home, we'll go on the boat and, we'll enjoy life or hit the beach. It was not the reality, Jonathan, in terms of my son would come home and he would have so much homework that you won't believe. And sometimes he'd be in homework till 7 o'clock. And then one day he came to me, and this coincided with a friend who actually called me up as well. I think we lasted three months, or three and a half months, pretty much the summer season in Mallorca. So you've got the beautiful weather, so you can be out on the yacht, and all the crazy thing. And a friend of mine, Lee said to me, "Dad, I don't like it here. I want to go home. This is not what you told me. Maybe not as specific words, but I don't like it here. I don't like the school, and I don't like all the homework." A friend of mine, a guy called Jared Little, said, "What are you doing? You're 24. You've made a lot of money. You can't retire. If you retire, literally in the next 10 years, you're going to be dead." So that kind of gave me, because a lot of people, they work all their life, they get to the point where, they think they've achieved the success or the security to be able to retire. And then ultimately, if you look at the stats, they don't get that long. Because they've worked all their life, and the chances of dying in the next 10 years after you're retired kind of makes it a harsh reality. And people stop thinking, they stop moving, they stop doing what they should be doing, to enjoy life. So that was the backstory. And then obviously from that point, we created a bit of an empire in terms of we have our own family office, we invest three main areas: real estate, renewable energy, private equity. And that's how tequila, another gift from God, we got into the tequila space purely by accident, Jonathan.
That's cool. Most people, a lot of people would think, man, if I made some millions of dollars at 24, I'm going to go sit Mai Tais on the beach. You decided not to do that. And tell me about why you guys chose tequila specifically. That part intrigues me. It's probably, one of the harder liquors to produce. You can't just go out and it's not like vodka where you can just go buy corn or potatoes or whatever. It's a very specific plant and only certain times of the year and all that kind of stuff. So tell me why it was tequila and a little bit about that backstory of why
Yeah,
you guys chose
love
that.
to. Great question, Jonathan. And, purely accidental. 20 plus years on bars, restaurants, and clubs in the United Kingdom. Now, Jonathan, if you were to ask me or Dion, how do you run bars, restaurant, clubs? We would have no idea. We were very fortunate. I was introduced became a friend, but a business partner of mine through an attorney friend of mine who had the experience of running these bars, restaurants, and clubs. He'd worked for a big PLC. He found this amazing location in the city of Manchester, and the attorney that was representing me in the Manchester area at that time put us both together. He's now went on to become a King's Counsel barrister, the top of the attorney tree, if you will. And what we were doing, so bars, restaurant, clubs, pretty much run a lot of mainly Manchester, which is a huge city in the United Kingdom. And then one day, John Rennie came to me and said, "Rob, we're going to buy out next door." We had one of the most famous places in the city, a place called Sugar Lounge, where you get people like Tom Cruise and David Beckham and all that were always in there. The who's who was always in there, but these things need to evolve and change. So we then changed it to Sugar Buddha. Then next door came up, and John Rennie said to me, "Look, we're going to knock through next door, and we're going to create a 700 capacity." Now think about that, Jonathan, how big this place was. 700 capacity seating area, Mexican themed restaurant that turned into a late night bar restaurant type of club because it would be open till 4 a.m. And he said, "Look, Rob, I want to call it El Diablo Tequila and Taco Bar." Now, at that time, Jonathan, one thing we like is competition, because you meant, tequila is highly competitive. But at that time, there was 18 other restaurants in the city of Manchester. We became number 19, but by far we became the big one. So the first thing I did, I mentioned it to family, what do you think of this? And I mentioned it to Lee, my oldest son, about this new place called El Diablo Tequila and Taco Bar. The first thing he said, "Jonathan, let's start our own tequila brand." I literally nearly fell over, because my recollection of tequila was waking up the next day feeling horrible by drinking the shots, cheap tequila with the salt, the lime, and all that. But where he was very, very smart. He handed it over to our marketing guys, and they came back and said, "This thing is blown up. It will at some point take over the vodka market in terms of the fastest growing, biggest segment of the spirit scenario. You've got a lot of celebrities putting millions of dollars, if not tens of millions of dollars, into this thing called tequila. And you got George Clooney, got $1 billion. So that piqued my interest. And that was like, holy crap, this is incredible. So that scenario was, we have to do this. But these marketing guys said to us, we think you should do it, but you need to position yourself two main areas, premium. So you're not this shot cheap type tequila, which made me feel good because I don't, still having nightmares at that point. And then secondly, you need to create flavor profiles because the tequila industry or segment, if you will become flavored profile, just like the whiskey, just like the gin, just like the vodka, and just like the rum. So what we did, like everything we do, Jonathan, why not have it all, see it all, do it all? We thought, how do we stand out from everyone else? So we created 8 expressions straight off the bat. People think madness, but we're thinking ahead. So we created the Blanco, the Reposado, the Añejo, the Extra Añejo. Then we created 3 flavors. And the fastest, quickest, and easiest way to create a flavored tequila is just get the Blanco and add a natural flavor profile to it. Because we're different and we want to be different, we're premium, we always want to have that quality taste and the smoothness. All of our flavors are Reposado based. Most tequila brands their Reposados will be anywhere between 3 and 6 months. Ours are a minimum of 10 months. On some occasions, Jonathan, we'll age it to the point where it nearly becomes an añejo on the 12-month mark. So we thought, okay, the 3 flavors we first came out with, one was coffee, white coffee, the second most drank beverage in the world after tea. A lot of tequila drinkers, a lot of coffee drinkers, put them both together. You got a marriage made in heaven. You might have heard of, Cafe Patron. But Cafe Patron was a liqueur, only 24% alcohol volume. All of our tequilas are 40%, or if you're in Europe, it's 38%. And they're all, where you can sip them, whether that's neat or on the rocks, and amazing in cocktails, especially, if you look at our coffee, Reposado, amazing in espresso martinis. The next one, Jonathan, not to be smart in any way, shape, or form. We looked at the whiskey flavored market. There's a thing called Fireball that controls 54% of the whiskey flavored market. So we said, let's create an incredible tequila cinnamon. And that's what we did. And the third one, vanilla. Why vanilla? It's the number 1 ice cream flavor in the world, but the versatility for cocktails, but also as a sipping drink on the rocks or neat, gave us that, let's check the box on that one. And the 8th expression, Jonathan, was we were told that there was a growing market for people wanting stronger tequilas. Blew my mind. Here you've got 40%, which we know is 80% alcohol volume. So we created a Blanco 55% over strength or overproof in conjunction with the TTB, because we wanted everything that we do, Jonathan, there's like a marketing twist around it, or a message to people. And we wanted to create a red liquid, so it would stand out in the back bar, but the red liquid signified a sign of danger. You drink this, it's a great product, sign of danger, So yeah, so TTB give us some options, and we went with a natural colorant called carmine color. And this, overproof, Blanco, sensational, looks amazing on the back bars and on the retail shops.
So you create this brand. I think a lot of celebrities, like you said, are doing their own tequila brands. I think some of that's been successful because there's a personality attached to it. And you all have jumped in, all of you, full force with, instead of just one person behind it, you're going to have your whole family behind the brand, and you're going to create a story behind it and a TV show, which is very intriguing and very interesting for folks listening in. I'll put the link to the show in the podcast description. But tell me about how this TV show came about, because I think however it came about, I think it's really smart because it puts, people want to go behind the scenes. They want to feel like they're a part of the thing and they're friends with the people making it. And this adds that element to what you're doing. So how did that come about?
Again, Jonathan, great question. So one of the things that we did, and what a lot of people will do in our position, is we went out, made a mistake, brought a marketing company on board, and they told us that they had sales brokers or sales agents all over the United States. We turned out not to be true. The next mistake, because a lot of people might look at us and think, okay, they've got an incredible tequila brand, TV show, documentary, and it's just literally, sunshine and roses, and there's no pushback or disappointments or failures along the way. Of course there is. Another thing we did, we took on and hired some big executives. And I asked them the question, Jonathan, how do we create awareness and take some market share in a highly competitive market space? And they said, well, Rob, you've got a family office. Why don't you go out and spend $1 million or $2 million? And that might move the needle. For me, Jonathan, that just didn't make sense. We're a family office. We invest for cash flow and asset appreciation. And there's got to be that element of the return on investment. So we completely dismissed it offhand. So the next thing we looked at, TV and media. We looked at celebrity tie-in. Do we do a deal with a celebrity? And do we do deals with influencers? So we looked at all of that. And then it's who could you do business with? Which celebrity? Which influencers? So what we decided to do was create our own docuseries called How to Build a $1 Billion Brand. And the reason before that is create our own awareness, create followers, generate sales, generate distribution interest. But more importantly, Jonathan, from a family office standpoint, increase the asset value of the company. Because, know your outcome, we want to build it, sell it, and scale it. So what we did, we finally started this docuseries, traveled around the world, places like Miami, places like Bahamas, Dubai, Scotland, Mykonos, Santorini in Greece. But in the process of doing that, Jonathan, for this docuseries, we were actually reached out to by a big network. It said, heard about the family, love your tequila, we love the branding. Would you be interested in doing a reality TV show? Completely dismissed it, said, no, we're a very private family. But the more the marketing people, the experts around us said, look, this could literally take your brand to another level that Rob not even knew could maybe comprehend. So what we decided to do, okay, let's go for it. So this docu-series, Jonathan, that we'd been filming and all the footage became a documentary called How to Build a $1 Billion Brand. And that's the backstory of To Naked Diablo. And that, believe it or not, Jonathan, won awards all over the world: Cannes Film Festival, London, New York, Paris, Rome, Milan, Miami, Hollywood. A lot of people found it educational, aspirational. I still don't get it, quite frankly, why it won all these awards, but it did. It sits on platforms like Amazon Prime and a lot of other networks. And then also what we wanted to do is create a bigger demographic and a bigger reach. But probably the most important thing, Jonathan, we wanted to retain the rights to this TV show called Tequila Empire. Because just imagine this, if we sold the rights to Tequila Empire, season 1 is all about, Naked Diablo. But then this network then decides to license out season 2, season 3, season 4, season 5 to one of our big competitors. We won't mention any names, and they might write a check to the network for 45, 50 million or 20 million. We couldn't take that risk. So what we decided, let's retain ownership. And secondly, let's go for a bigger, wider demographic rather than just a one network play. So what we decided to do, we did a deal with Tubi. They're owned by Fox. They have over 100 million active monthly viewers. Did a deal with Apple TV, did a deal with Foursome, did a deal with so many different networks. I can't even remember part of some of the names. I've left that to a dear friend who's become a dear friend, the gentleman who actually filmed our documentary and also filmed our TV show, Tequila Empire, a gentleman called Nathan Cinto Topez. He owns Global Films. So very grateful to him. And what we did, Jonathan, we thought, let's do 4 episodes, let's hand it over. So the first 3 episodes we filmed in Miami. We love Miami. The 4th one we filmed in Vegas. And why them cities was because we have super big presence in them cities and it made sense. So much so, if you look at Vegas, we're in pretty much all the major casinos, restaurants, bars, clubs. We're in Caesars National Beverage Program. So pretty much there's a Caesars I think there's 50 plus casinos in the US. Naked Diablo has a place there. So we handed these 4 episodes over, and the feedback from the networks was, this thing's amazing. This is going to blow up. So we want a full season. Can you go out and film a few more episodes? So episodes 5 and 6 we filmed in Marbella, Spain, because we're in Marbella, we're in Europe. Part of 6 we actually filmed in Manchester, our home city, and part of that filming process was around one of Dion's and Lee's businesses, which is the top martial arts event company in the United Kingdom.
Yep.
And episodes 7 and 8, Jonathan, we kind of thought, let's go back to where Tequila stems from. We actually filmed it at the distillery in Jalisco, Mexico, in the agave fields, all the drama that goes around with that. And the interesting thing, some of these networks, Tubi, Foursome, actually released 4 of the episodes in December prior to, being a featured show on Tubi in January. And that's literally blown things up. We're fortunate enough we can get on great platforms like yours, Jonathan, and, like some of the radio stations and TV shows and all that sort of stuff that we've been fortunate, and obviously through Billy helped us do a lot of that. But, it was a great moment on Monday. We're in Times Square. We have the Naked Diablo billboard. We have the Tequila Empire billboard, and we also have How to Build a $1 Billion Brand billboard, one after the other. And a guy who has 3.5 million subscribers was following me around for the day. So
Nice.
the awareness is there, Jonathan, in a big, big way, or it's starting to be so.
So is this your son with you? I don't think
This Dion's my youngest son, and plays a big part in
Dion.
the TV show.
I think to touch up on that as well, it's nice on episode 7 and 8 in Mexico, obviously where the tequila comes from, an insight to the family, how they make it. So anyone from that's looking for the educational side, I think it's very interesting. Like, we learn stuff all the time as well. And tequila is the healthiest alcohol in the world, which is, if you look at the world now, everything's going fitness and health. So it's it's.
So I got a question for you. Was it Dion? Is that your name? Sorry.
Yes, Dion. Yeah.
Dion, what do you think makes your dad so successful? Because,
Should I leave the room, Jonathan?
I'm going to be careful what I say.
Yeah, so it's a 2-part question. What do you think makes your dad so successful, and why follow him into the storm? Because I think Dion, I don't know if you have kids or not, but I have 3 kids, and it's probably every dad's dream to have their son sitting next to them in the storm while they go through whatever they're going through, owning a business, starting a TV show, doing all the things that you do. Most families, scatter after college, and the kids will come back maybe once a year, for Christmas or whatever. And it's really cool to see your guys' family doing this stuff together. So 2-part question. What do you think makes your dad so successful, and why go with him through all this stuff instead of just do your own thing? I think that I admire you doing that. So I think that the question is in a positive light, but I just want to know some of the whys behind it. I think it's cool.
Yeah. No, I mean, my dad's a very confident person, very humble. I think he's very good at putting the right people in the right spots. Growing up, you would have heard of obviously the game called Monopoly, right? My dad, I remember being a young kid, and my dad used to say to me, listen, you're not going to win by just going around passing go, collecting $200. You have to make money work for you. You have to invest, especially in property. And I'm very fortunate to have that knowledge. And going back to the family aspect, obviously, my older brother, 3 younger sisters as well. It's a team effort. We're always looking to improve each other, better each other. We know our strengths and our weaknesses. And I think a lot of the morals, as I would say, come from the boss over here.
So, Rob, what does it mean to you to have your family next to you doing this?
Well, everything, Jonathan. The greatest gift from God is being blessed with children as well as health, obviously having health and that. But I've got a funny story behind how this all came about, and how, Dion is very much on side. Mia is the youngest one. I'm not saying Carla and Claudia and Lee's not, but Lee was the kind of the brainchild behind Naked Diablo. He's the co-founder. He got it to the point where we're ready to put the liquid in the bottle and start, marketing this. But then he disappeared. He moved on to one of his other ventures. He's very entrepreneurial. and Dion as well. But I'm going, hang on a minute. We've spent about $6 million up to this point. We can't, this can't just be a vanity play. This has to be a business. Now let's go back to the principles of our family office is invest for cash flow, and asset appreciation. What I had to do, like someone like Lee had to drag him screaming. So if you look at what came before Tequila Empire, we did the documentary. And I had to tell Lee or ask Lee and Dion, you'll see them not very much in the documentary. The family's there, when we're in Miami and, and the nice places, they signed up for that, Jonathan. Yeah, let's jump on the plane and go to the nice places. We don't see them much in it. And I had to ask Dion, or I asked Lee and Dion, get your butts up to the distillery in Scotland. And, because there's going to be some family, part to all of this. But there's a bit in that documentary, How to Build a $1 Billion Brand, Jonathan, where Lee says, my goal is to sell Naked Diablo for $1 billion. He felt so uncomfortable by that fact. And, he didn't want it to come across as here's a rich family, arrogance, because for us, it's not what you make, it's who you become. He actually reached out to the film producer that put it all together and asked him to cut it out. Didn't even come to me. So I was disappointed. I appreciated where he was coming from. He didn't want us to come across as, arrogant, but, this thing's called How to Build a $1 Billion Brand, Jonathan. But the fact that he reached out to Nathan, will you remove that? Didn't come to me. That was the first and only time we fell out or we had a disagreement on where we want to take this thing. Because he never asked me and he went straight to the film producer, it's in there. So it's in there. But like Dion said, I'm trying to move away from being maybe the front of this because it's not about me. It's about the family. It's about, having the most important thing is it's not just about a brand. It's great liquid. It has to be, because otherwise it just comes across all false. And we've had some nice press along the way, Jonathan. Forbes magazine, Forbes.com said this is genius in brand building, creating a TV show and a documentary because you actually own and control your own, content, if you will. So, but for me, TV and it was like, it's not something that you're comfortable with, you're ever comfortable with, but it's it's something you have to do.
Well, this is exciting to kind of hear your story. I want to be mindful of your time. So my last question to you is this, Rob. What advice would you give to other folks listening? A lot of the folks that listen to my show are like entrepreneurs or aspiring entrepreneurs that are maybe on the cusp of doing something great or good as they define it. What's some advice you'd give to early stage entrepreneurs who maybe have failed 10 times and are waiting for that time to finally be successful?
Well, my only advice, I always tell people, don't wait. There's never a perfect time to start. Failure gives you the experience to make better decisions going forward. So, stay humble and work your butt off. And remember, Sinaloa, safety in numbers and law of averages. Karma and the numbers will always be on your side. And most people fail when they're just on the verge of success. If there was a guiding notion where you go from 100, from 0 to 100 and you're successful, that would be the easiest blueprint to follow. But success doesn't gauge that way. It's about keep going, being persistent, and you will get there in the end. And the only reason you won't get there is if you quit. So never do that. Awesome.
Well, I appreciate you joining us. Folks listening in, I'll put all the links in the podcast description. Definitely go check out the TV show next time you're in Vegas.
Documentary, Jonathan. Don't forget the documentary.
Yeah, and the documentary. And if you're at a restaurant, ask for their tequila and make sure you enjoy that. Thanks again, Rob, for joining us. You're welcome back anytime.
NakedDiablo.com if anyone wants to order Naked Diablo.
Yep, go to NakedDiablo.com. I'll put the link in the description and go check it out. Go watch the documentary. Go watch the TV show. And Rob, hope you have a great rest of your day.
Jonathan, thank you.
Thanks, Jonathan.
We appreciate it. Take care.
Thanks for having us.